Imagine shaking someone's hand, looking them in the eye, and never realizing that face wasn't real. Not makeup, not a costume shop mask, a second skin good enough to fool cameras, security systems, even people who know the wearer well. This isn't science fiction anymore. Around the world, companies are quietly perfecting disguise technology so convincing it blurs the line between who someone appears to be and who they truly are. Imagine walking past someone on the street shaking their hand, even looking them dead in the eye, and never realizing that the face you saw wasn't real. Not a facelift, not makeup, not a costume shop rubber mask, a second skin, convincing enough to fool not just strangers but cameras, security systems, and sometimes people who know the wearer well. This isn't science fiction anymore. It started with a breakthrough out of Japan that's rewriting what's possible when it comes to disguising or even replacing the human body. Let's start there in Japan, where researchers and engineers have developed what can only be described as a human skin suit. Not a mask, not a partial prosthetic, an entire wearable layer designed to replicate the texture, elasticity, and movement of real human skin. This is the product of years of overlapping research in robotics, prosthetics, and materials science converging into a single unsettling achievement. Robotics gave engineers the mechanical understanding of how skin needs to move with a body in motion. Prosthetics contributed decades of knowledge about biocompatible materials that feel and behave like living tissue. Wearable technology tied it all together into something a person can actually put on. Why does this matter beyond the shock factor? Because it points toward a much bigger shift. If we can build a wearable material that mimics skin's tactile and visual properties this convincingly, the applications stretch far beyond disguise. Think about reconstructive medicine, where a truly skin-like covering could transform recovery and quality of life. Think about entertainment, where actors could embody entirely different physical identities without hours in a makeup chair. Think about personal augmentation, a world where changing your appearance becomes as simple as changing your clothes. Japan's human skin suit isn't just a novelty, it's a signal flare for where wearable technology is headed. But Japan isn't the only place pushing these boundaries. Around the world, a handful of companies have been quietly perfecting the art and science of hyper-realistic disguise, each with its own approach, its own specialty, and its own unsettling level of detail. Let's go to the United Kingdom first, where a company called Metamorphose Masks has built a reputation as one of the most meticulous producers of lifelike silicone masks in the industry. Their process isn't quick or automated. It begins with digital modeling, mapping out the exact geometry of a face before any physical material is touched. From there, the mask is cast using silicone molding techniques that capture the subtle contours of real human anatomy. Then comes the part that separates a good mask from an extraordinary one: hand painting. Skilled artists apply layer after layer of paint by hand, replicating the tiny imperfections that make a face look alive. Pores, fine wrinkles, faint discoloration, even the appearance of stubble. It's a slow, artisanal process layered on top of high-tech manufacturing. And that combination is exactly what makes these masks so convincing. Metamorphose's flagship creation is called the Elder Mask, and it represents the company at its most ambitious. It's built from skin-safe, platinum-grade silicone, chosen because it's gentle enough for extended wear against real skin. The eye holes are seamlessly integrated so they don't break the illusion, and the mask uses power mesh reinforcement to maintain its shape over repeated use. Perhaps most impressively, it includes an advanced mouth movement system, letting the wearer's real jaw and lips drive believable facial expressions instead of leaving the mask frozen and lifeless. The applications are genuinely valuable: film special effects, security testing, and forensic science, where investigators study how disguises can be used to evade identification. But that same realism cuts both ways. A mask capable of fooling a film crew is also, in theory, capable of fooling a witness or a security camera. That tension between legitimate use and potential misuse follows every company in this space. Across the Atlantic in the United States, a company called Ronier has taken a different approach: not faces, but entire bodies. Ronier produces full-body silicone suits designed for complete physical transformation. facial features, hands, feet, and body contours, all reshaped through a single suit made from high-quality, hypoallergenic silicone. These suits are engineered for comfort during extended wear and designed to move naturally with the wearer's body. Ronier's clientele includes performers and theatrical productions looking for dramatic, seamless transformations on stage or screen, but it also includes individuals exploring entirely new personas for personal reasons, including transformations tied to gender expression. In that sense, Ronier's suits aren't just costume pieces. They're tools for identity exploration, offering a physical, tactile way to experience being someone entirely different from your everyday self, even if only temporarily. Then there's Tokyo again, home to a company called Kinia OTE, which has taken the mask-making process in a very different technical direction: 3D printing. Instead of hand sculpting and hand painting each mask individually, Kinia OTE uses 3D printing technology to reproduce faces with what can only be described as photographic precision. The results are startling. These masks allow a wearer to essentially assume the identity of a specific stranger, replicating their features with remarkable accuracy. The masks aren't perfect illusions. The lips remain immobile and the gaze is fixed, small but noticeable giveaways if you look closely enough. Still, the level of detail is enough to convince at a glance, in a photo, or in a brief encounter. What makes Kinia OTE particularly significant isn't just the quality of the masks, but the scale. The company has built out mass production capabilities, turning out around 100 masks every single month. That number matters because it marks a shift from hyper-realistic disguise as a rare, expensive novelty towards something closer to an accessible commercial product. When 3D printing enters the picture, realism stops being handmade and starts being scalable, and that raises real questions about privacy, consent, and who controls the rights to someone's own face. Finally, back in the United States, we meet an artist rather than a company in the traditional sense. Landon Meyer, founder of Hyperflesh. Meyer built his reputation crafting hyper-realistic latex masks, many modeled after real celebrities. His most famous piece is arguably the Walter White mask, a likeness so precise that actor Bryan Cranston himself has worn it. Each Hyperflesh mask is handcrafted, blending traditional sculpture with 3D printing and casting techniques to achieve a level of detail that satisfies serious collectors and enthusiasts. Unlike Kinia OTE's mass production model, Hyperflesh operates more like a boutique atelier, where artistry and technical skill combine to produce pieces that function as much as collectible art as they do wearable disguise. Meyer's success shows how this entire industry sits at a genuinely interesting crossroads. Part special effects workshop, part sculpture studio, part cutting-edge materials lab. Taken together, these innovations, Japan's human skin suit, Metamorphose's silicone masks, Ronier's full-body transformation suits, Kinia OTE's mass-produced 3D printed faces, and Hyperflesh's handcrafted latex art paint a picture of an industry moving fast in a very specific direction, toward disguise and physical transformation that's harder and harder to detect. Each of these technologies has genuinely valuable, even beneficial applications: film production, theater, reconstructive medicine, forensic research, personal identity exploration, art, and collecting. These aren't fringe uses, they're meaningful contributions to entertainment, science, and self-expression, but the same realism that makes these creations impressive is exactly what makes them a security concern. A mask good enough to fool a camera crew is by definition good enough to fool a security checkpoint. A suit realistic enough to convince an audience is realistic enough to convince a stranger on the street. As this technology becomes more accessible, more affordable, more mass-producible, more widely available, the gap between legitimate creative use and potential criminal misuse narrows. That's not a reason to stop innovating. It's a reason to innovate on the other side of the equation too, developing better methods of identification, authentication, and detection that can keep pace with how convincing these disguises have become. Consider how differently these companies approach the same problem. Metamorphose leans on painstaking, artisanal craftsmanship, treating every mask like a one-of-a-kind sculpture. Ronier focuses on the whole body rather than just the face, treating transformation as a full physical experience rather than a simple disguise. Kenya OTE bets on speed and volume, proving that photographic realism doesn't have to remain a rare, expensive luxury. And Hyperflesh sits somewhere in between, using industrial techniques like 3D printing and casting, but filtering everything through the eye and hand of a single dedicated artist. 4 different philosophies, all converging on the same unsettling result: a face that isn't really there. It's worth pausing on how quickly this field has evolved. A decade ago, convincing disguise work belonged almost entirely to big-budget film studios with specialized effects teams and enormous budgets. Today, a hobbyist with a 3D printer and the right materials can access techniques that once required a Hollywood-level operation. That democratization is exciting for artists and performers who finally have access to tools once locked behind studio doors. But it's also exactly why security researchers and identity verification companies are paying closer attention, since the same accessibility that empowers a filmmaker also lowers the barrier for someone with less honest intentions. This is why the conversation around hyper-realistic masks can't stop at admiration for the craftsmanship, impressive as it genuinely is. It has to extend into detection and verification too. How do you build a system that can tell the difference between a real face and an extraordinarily good fake one? These aren't hypothetical questions anymore. They're active challenges, and the pace of innovation on the mask-making side means the pace of innovation on the detection side has to accelerate too. We're standing at a strange intersection of art, technology, and identity. The question isn't really whether hyper-realistic masks and suits will keep improving. They will. The real question is whether our systems for verifying who someone actually is can improve just as fast. Because in a world where anyone's face can, in theory, be replicated with startling precision, trust itself starts to look a little different, and the line between who someone appears to be and who they actually are gets thinner every single year.